Okay, so imagine this. Someone tries to pull off the ultimate heist, a straight-up bank robbery, only they're going after $1 billion.
Wow.
And not through some slick Wall Street scheme. No, this is happening online.
$1 billion online.
Yeah, the 2016 Bangladesh bank heist. And today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most audacious cyber heists the world has ever seen.
Right, and it really exposed how fragile things are. I mean, the global banking system nearly got turned upside down.
Absolutely. It's a story of some seriously daring hackers, a global banking system caught totally off guard, and, well, you'll never guess the bizarre twist that saved the day, or at least most of it.
You know, it's funny when you think about it, this whole heist, it wasn't just about stealing money.
What do you mean?
Well, it ended up exposing these huge vulnerabilities in the very foundation of global finance, Like, it sent shockwaves through the entire system, and everyone realized, whoa, we're not as secure as we thought.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Huh.
Let's rewind back to February 2016. Bangladesh Bank, the central bank of the country, they were holding billions, I mean billions with a B, in foreign currency reserves.
Yeah.
And these hackers, they had their sights set on the bank's account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. No small potatoes.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, you're talking about the Central Bank of the United States here, right?
Right.
One of the most secure, supposedly financial institutions in the entire world.
And they were this close to losing $1 billion? How is that even possible?
Well, here's how they almost pulled it off, and it's pretty clever, actually. They got into Bangladesh Bank's systems,
Got in.
hacked their way in, and they stole the bank's credentials for the SWIFT network.
Okay, for those of us who don't exactly, wire billions of dollars around on a daily basis,
Sure.
what is the SWIFT network? Like, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so SWIFT stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, which is a mouthful, I know.
Yeah.
But basically, think of it as the messaging system that banks all over the world use. So when they want to, authorize payments, move money around, make transfers, that's what they use. Almost like, an email system for moving money.
Only in this case, not as secure as they thought it was.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's what this whole thing really exposed, right?
So they're in the system, they've got the credentials. What do they actually do?
So they started sending out fraudulent payment requests through SWIFT, and they made them look like they were coming straight from Bangladesh Bank, totally legit, And the plan was, if everything worked, that $1 billion would be scattered across all these different accounts all over the planet.
Making it basically impossible to recover.
Pretty much. It would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, a digital haystack at that point.
And it almost worked.
Oh, it came terrifyingly close. I mean, they got 5 transactions through, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
Totaling $101 million. Now, luckily, 20 million of that went to an account in Sri Lanka. And authorities were able to freeze that and eventually recover it, thank goodness. But the remaining 81 million went to multiple accounts in the Philippines. And, well, much of that money vanished, just disappeared into thin air. Or I guess, more accurately, into casinos.
So it really is like a movie, right?
Right.
Like a high-stakes cyber heist, and then, poof, the trail goes cold in the casino. Crazy.
You know what's even crazier? There's a twist here that's almost too bizarre to believe. It's stranger than fiction, almost. So one of these transfer requests, get this, it was for $20 million, right? It just happened to include the word Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yep, Jupiter. Seems random, right? Total coincidence, but guess what? Jupiter also happened to be the name of an Iranian ship that was under U.S. sanctions at the time. Talk about bad luck for the hackers.
Wait, so they got busted because of a random word?
Pretty much. That one word, it triggered alarms at the New York Fed. Someone was processing these requests, right? And they noticed that word Jupiter, and they're like, wait a minute, that's a sanctioned ship. Flagged it as suspicious, and that one little flag set off this whole chain reaction that stopped all the other transfers from going through. Think about it. If it hadn't been for that one word, Jupiter, they might have gotten away with the whole billion.
Wow, I can't get over how close they came.
Yeah, it was a close call.
It makes you wonder, what if that Jupiter slip-up hadn't happened? What were the security gaps, that even allowed this whole thing to get so far in the first place?
Well, that's exactly what everyone wanted to know, right? I mean, investigators, regulators, the entire financial world, they're all scratching their heads like, how did this happen? And what it really exposed were vulnerabilities, not just in Bangladesh bank systems, but in the global financial system itself. I mean, all of a sudden, SWIFT, which everyone thought was this bedrock of secure financial messaging, it seemed, well, alarmingly fragile.
Yeah.
And the New York Fed, right, the one that's supposed to be safeguarding trillions of dollars in assets, they were caught flat-footed.
So what were the weaknesses that this whole thing kind of, like, brought to light?
Well, one major issue, and this is a big one, was that the New York Fed, they were relying on these like post-transaction reviews. So basically it's like, imagine you're investigating a robbery, but you're doing it after the thieves have already cleaned out the vault and disappeared.
Right.
I mean, they needed, and this became so obvious, like painfully obvious, real-time fraud detection,
Yeah.
systems that are constantly monitoring transactions, looking for any suspicious activity, anything that's out of the ordinary.
And they can just stop it right then and there.
Yeah, like immediate action to either prevent it from happening in the first place or stop an unauthorized transfer in its tracks. Boom, right then and there.
So the hackers basically exploited that lag, right?
Exactly, that lag time between when the transaction happens and when someone actually gets around to reviewing it.
Yeah.
And that's not all, right? It also showed like how much they needed stronger authentication protocols within Swift itself, like make it way harder for hackers to get their hands on those sensitive credentials.
It seems like this whole incident must have caused some, well, tension
Oh, yeah.
between Bangladesh Bank and the New York Fed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, their relationship was definitely strained after this whole heist went down. I mean, Bangladesh Bank was like, hey, what's up with your security measures? You know, they thought the Fed should have caught those fraudulent transactions much sooner, especially given how, unusual they were, how much money was involved and how often they were happening. And then there were all these questions about like who is ultimately responsible for the losses and how much should the New York Fed compensate Bangladesh Bank.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely ruffled some feathers, to say the least.
And I imagine this whole thing had huge ripple effects on, well, basically the global banking industry as a whole.
Oh, for sure. It was a major wake-up call for the entire financial industry. I mean, the fact that hackers could even get into a system like Swift, even if it was temporary, it shook everyone's confidence, In the security of the whole global banking system, it forced institutions everywhere to, like, rethink their security, pour money into real-time monitoring, better authentication, just more robust systems overall.
So this wasn't just about, like, getting the stolen money back. It was about the entire system having to adapt.
Exactly. And it's still adapting, like it's an ongoing process. I mean, the threats are always changing, evolving, right? So financial institutions, everyone really needs to stay vigilant. We live in a digital world, and this heist, it's a really powerful reminder of how high the stakes are.
Absolutely. So we've gone deep into the hows, the whys, the almost unbelievable twists and turns of this whole thing. But the big question, and this is for everyone listening, is what can we learn from this? How can we protect ourselves, our finances, our data in this increasingly digital world?
Yeah.
That's something for all of us to think about.
Yeah, for sure.